Thank you. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City Council meeting for March 5th, 2026. This is our special reorganization meeting tonight. We will start with item number 1, which is our Pledge of Allegiance, and we're asking our new Councilor, Beth Sigmund, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually supposed to be
That's right.
running
we
this
do it all over
meeting.
again?
No, we don't have to do it all over again. Fell down on my job. It's the awkwardest 5 minutes of your council meetings of the year. The next item on the agenda is the instructions for exiting the building in case of an emergency and review of technology options. So for those in the room, if there's an emergency in the room, you can go out the rear of the auditorium on the left or right side and then turn left or right to get outside. For those participating remotely, thank you for joining us as well. If you'd like to speak during any item on our agenda, you can raise your hand or indicate in the Q&A that you would like to speak, and I will have the chair call on you. Other than that, we are not monitoring the chat for content. So the next item on our agenda is agenda review, additions, deletions, or changes in order of the agenda. Does the council have any changes? All right. Seeing none, the next item on our agenda is questions or comments from the public not related to another agenda item. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Seeing none. No Barb even. All right, so with that, our next item on our agenda is appointing officers for this new city council. So under section 13.303 of the city's charter, the council is required to elect a council chair, vice chair, and clerk at their first organizational meeting. So the floor is open for nominations.
I move that we keep the 3 that we have as is. Can I do
Second. As a slate?
That? As a slate.
So there is a motion on the floor, and just for the record, that is to have Councilor Barrett serve as chair, Councilor Chalnick serve as vice chair, and Councilor Fitzgerald serve as clerk. Yes? And seconded by Andrew. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And you are unanimous. So I will turn the table over to the chair.
Thank you very much, City Manager. And we'll go on to item number 6, which is Councilors Announcements and City Manager's Report. Would the newest Councilor, Beth Sigmund, like to give her City Councilor announcements for the evening?
You gotta hit that button.
I have no announcements.
Thank you very much. Lori?
I did have an NRCC meeting last night, and they're quite busy. They're also working on their 2027 proposed work plan to present for our priorities and strategies meeting. They are almost done with a tree plan that they've put together with the arborist. And I think at the next meeting that will be ready to be moved to wherever it's going to be moved to. And there was a question about what that would be. And they're working on a number of educational initiatives around road salt education, around pollinator and rewilding. And they're working on sort of getting together information about meadow management, the various types of meadows, the various methodologies for managing different parts of open space that will be available to be used for implementation once the park and open space master planning process is complete. And they got an update on the Parks and Open Space plan and how that's moving forward. And it was also mentioned that Burlington has a new open space plan, which is actually quite comprehensive and something for our team to be looking at as we're moving forward with our plan. That's it since the last election, the last council meeting, except there was a 14.5 hour day on Tuesday, and things went really smoothly, and it was a good thing to have it now behind us. We only have to do it twice more this year. That's it for me.
Thank you, Lori. Elizabeth?
Other than working the polls on Tuesday, I do not have any committee updates. I do want to thank those voters who came out and voted for doing that. And honestly, I'm disappointed and continue to be challenged by the turnout in South Burlington, which seems to be very inconsistent with the community engagement that we normally see. So it would be my hope that we continue to have a dialogue about how to continue to engage our neighbors in important issues that we're talking about and the school board's talking about. I did sit in on the reorganization for the school board, and Seamus was reelected. Actually, the current officers were reelected in their roles, and they did welcome a write-in candidate for the open school board position, Alyssa Galvez, I believe her name is. So they have a full board now. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Andrew?
Sure. So there was a conversation with a counselor where I had a fascinating conversation with a very philanthropic gentleman. I don't want to disclose the entire conversation here, but I'm hoping that at some point that I will be able to. And it was very interesting. A gentleman who was just very, very committed to really helping the town realize some of its goals. So very exciting. There was an election and kind of a lot of campaigning, and I was lucky enough, and we're lucky enough, really, as a city, to have Town Meeting TV. I did a couple of interviews, and what a terrific service they provide. So that was really good. Looking forward to working with our newest counselor, Dr. Beth Sigmund. Congratulations on a well-run campaign, and really congratulations to Amy Allen too, who I think also ran a very good campaign. In terms of election turnout, I also think that is something we need to think about, and wondering whether there is something that we as a council, as a city, can do to promote that. And one thing may be to send, say, a package to each resident, which very digestible. These are the candidates, these are the issues, maybe a bio of each candidate, just like a really digestible summary packet that they have in their hands. It comes in the mail, it's in their hands, and maybe that would help facilitate things. I don't know, but one idea I think that would be useful to talk about.
Great, thanks, Andrew. So it's been a busy couple of weeks. I attended a planning commission meeting. Unfortunately, Paul was sick and Kelsey was on vacation, and it was Nick Atherton's last planning commission meeting. and then the following night was the energy committee, and that was his absolute last committee meeting he was taking care of. So there was a little bit of news about that, and regret from the committee members that he was leaving. So because of that, one of the items wasn't they canceled off the agenda, but Ilana Blanchard gave a really good update on the city center, the TIF district, and what the progress was and what land was left open. There were a lot of good questions, and then there was an update on the staff's work to update the LDRs with respect to your EV charging ready, EV ready capability to counteract Governor Scott's executive orders. So that work is going on as well. At the Energy Committee meeting, we talked about the RBS, CBS inspections and whether or not the city might want to get involved in that. They had some feedback about the fair and whether they should do a fair next year, whether they should combine the fair with some other activity. So that conversation was ongoing. Of course, we had our Monday night pre-election town meeting budget presentation by the city and by the school. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we had our citywide election And I'm also grateful to the voters for approving the city budget and also the school budget and selecting a new city councilor. I think it was a really fair and good campaign on part of both candidates. And I'm grateful for, and what? And the bond issue, right, for the fire station addition as well. Thank you. If you didn't realize, a week and a half ago, there was a gallery opening out in the hallway for Susan Smerica. She works with fiber arts and other media, and she gave a really interesting talk about where she accumulates those things from, those bits of fragments of fabric and whatnot, and how much of her house is occupied by that quantity. And so it was really a nice opening. Last night, I went to the Williston Road scoping study by the CCRPC for Mary Street and the Hotel Road along the Delta Road that goes over across the Windjammer entrance, and that problematic intersection, those two, the curb cut for Mary Street and then the intersection, and it was sort of like bring any idea that you have could go on the table, as fantastical as it might be, right? And they would try to somehow analyze that for a future meeting. So that's really good because that's a pinch point on Williston Road. If you haven't noticed that, everybody wants to go to Starbucks or mostly Starbucks in the morning, right? And want to turn left, they get off the interstate. I've ordered my coffee and I want to go pick it up, right? And that intersection, there's no dedicated left turn lane. So that's a problem. I also had a Chittenden County Communication Union District meeting from 3 to 4, actually 3 to 3:30 on Wednesday, where we approved an audit from a firm of the Union District's last 2 years of expenses and payouts. And the reason that we had this meeting was because we're required by law to have this audit, but the only company that actually responded to the RFP wanted $28,000 for, I think, was a collection of 4 payments out of the budget. Very little activity with that money that's in that account. So there was a lot of grilling of the vendor about that. The way it ended up was that he sort of promised that he would show his billable hours, and it would be no more than $28,000. But the district was unhappy, to say the least, with that cost, which legally required to have that done. So anyway, I guess that's all I have for now. Thank you very much. City Manager report.
Thank you. So also want to sincerely thank the voters for the approval with 64% of the city for the city budget and 72% approval for the fire prevention unit bond vote. We are really excited to continue to provide the services the community expects for the next 15 months or so. So thank you to the voters and welcome to Councilor Zygmunt. Couple other quick updates. Alana has applied. You all approved this at your last meeting. Applied last week for both the Northern Borders Regional Commission grant and the third federal grant to close the funding gaps in the TIF budget. We are also submitting 2 congressionally directed spending requests to help close that gap too. So lots of applications out there. Huge thanks to Alana for grant writing intensely for a couple of weeks. Also wanted to share with you that 2 of our police officers, Officer Bird and Officer Kanja Olmsted, have successfully finished last week their field training. These were the 2 officers who started with us as students on summer bike patrol, then went to the academy starting last August, and just this week finished their field training. So they are off on their own patrolling our city. So very exciting. They're both tremendous professionals, but also, it's the beginning of March, and they started with us in early August, and that's the timeline to get them fully trained up and ready to go.
How many open positions are there then with the 2 additions?
8. And then finally wanted to call your attention to 2 library things. One, on March 17th, the library is hosting a Vermont Trivia Night. For the council, I tried to get the leadership team excited to launch a team to challenge the council team. I was not successful in that, but if members of the community or the council are interested in our Vermont Trivia team night on March 17th, it's going to be a great event. You have to register your team by March 12th.
You're obviously intimidated, obviously.
And it's part of the 250th anniversary celebration. And then the library is closed for the community on March 11th. They are doing their annual full day staff retreat and training. So the library will be closed that day. And that's all I got, other than all the other things I'm going to talk to you about tonight.
Do we have a council trivia team?
How many, is there a minimum number of people required for a team? Do we have to warn for that?
Well, it will be we talked about this. It'll be in public. And as long as you don't debate city business while you're answering questions, it probably is okay.
Is one of the
Like
categories going
saying
to be
this in front of the city
stormwater
attorney.
Rules and permit?
Depends on the questions
Yeah.
too, right?
Yes, it kind of depends on the question.
What night is that?
It's the event is March 17th. You have to register your teams by March 12th.
It's St. Patrick's Day, isn't it? No beer allowed in the library, probably okay. Well, I'm up for it if anybody else is. So, okay, so we have at least two. We'll work on some more. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7, which is receive an orientation on council service, roles and responsibilities, and general government operations with City Manager Jesse Baker.
So, apologies in advance. You're going to listen to me talk a lot this evening, but I do think it's worth annually reviewing how we operate as a body, or how you all operate as a body, what our authorities are across roles, and really focus us on the good governance that we owe the community to carry forward every day.
A request, since we're going to be looking at the screen a lot, I just want to readjust
Yeah,
that
go for it.
screen. I don't know if I can do it, or I need Travis. Okay. I don't know if you're getting the glare also.
Thank you.
I've got a, perfect.
What time is
Thank
it?
you.
I don't know. It's
I've
on the
got a
website.
reflection of these lights. That,
Yeah. I can see a little bit of it up there.
thank you.
You're welcome. So I will also say that while I will talk through this, that obviously 4 of you have been functioning very well as a city council, and Steve and Colin have been doing this work alongside us. So jump in, folks, if you have questions or ideas or anything that you want to add to this conversation. So this is what I'm going to talk about. I would really encourage all of you to ask questions as we go. If you have questions, the community definitely has questions. And part of this is ensuring that we are as transparent as possible about how we operate as a municipal government. So our form of government is what's called a council manager form of government. You again are very aware of this. So as opposed to other communities around us, how our government functions is you 5 are elected, as you know, from the residents at large. You then hire a professional city manager. I am the CEO of the city. That is outlined in state statute under Title 24 and our municipal charter. In your presentation that's linked on your agenda for the community and for the council, anywhere that's red underlined is a hyperlink to those relevant documents. So try to create this as a resource for the community and the council to use over time. To me, the most important part of our form of government and why I have chosen it as a profession is that I believe it's the form of local government that allows us to hold the most trust with the community and really focus on how we make decisions in the best interest of all of our residents, and provide that outside of any other political pressure. So I'm going to talk about our different authorities for a few minutes. So under our municipal charter and your adopted rules of procedure, which is a future agenda item on your agenda tonight, your primary way to think about your primary authority is that you do 3 things. You decide what people can do with their land or their public activity through ordinances and through land development regulations. You decide what we're going to do with other people's money, i.e. how we're going to structure our government and pay for things, and you hire a city manager to run those things. That's kind of the Cliff Notes version. You also appoint a bunch of people, which you will do later on in this agenda. You appoint people to boards and committees. You serve as any board that has a statutory requirement that's not otherwise appointed. So the Liquor Control Board, the Board of Health, Cemetery Commission. You have the Water Commission, or Stormwater Appeal Board we recently appointed. Things that are in ordinance that don't sit somewhere else. Of course, you make ordinances. You hold the sole authority to acquire, sell, and lease property. So I can't enter into those agreements. Those agreements all have to come to you. And of course, you provide the fiduciary oversight of the city. The city manager's authority, again, as outlined in the charter, and I am a member of the International City Management Association, so I follow the ICMA's Code of Ethics. I serve as the city's CEO. It's my responsibility to prepare with my team, to prepare budgets and administer them, to oversee all ordinances and enforcement. I serve as the personnel director to the city and have the exclusive authority to hire, manage, and if needed, fire staff. I'm going to talk about that more a little later. It is my obligation to regularly report to you on finances and operations, and I serve as your primary support. So I am your only staff person. I am here for whatever you need. It's one of the best parts of my job. Please call on me if I can help in any way. I think it's important to note that many of our staff also have independent statutory authority under Title 24 in our charter. I bring this up to say there are a lot of things our team does that they do independently in executing the laws of the state, meaning I can't direct them to do something else and you can't direct them to do something else. A very accessible example of this is I can't tell the police chief to go arrest somebody if they haven't violated some statute. Same for the zoning administrator, building inspector staff, and the city clerk. This is one of my favorite dorky images that the four of you have seen several times. It's a really useful image to me as we think about the primary work the six of us primarily do together, talking about the mission of the city, the policy of the city, how we're going to administer that policy, and how we're going to manage the city. And what I like about this with the council tasks on the left and the administration tasks on the right is that the reality is that none of us hold sole authority for any of the things. There is always kind of a teeter-totter behind. You ultimately are accountable for policy, but it is staff's professional obligation to make recommendations and provide you unbiased information about that policy that you could adopt. Ultimately, it is your call, the policy you adopt, and it is ultimately my responsibility to implement any policy you set. But we all own a little bit of each other's throughout the swish. So with that authority conversation, I'm going to move to talk about your rules of procedure. These are the rules that are outlined in the previous year's rules of procedure. You have them before you tonight as well. Though they are a policy of the council, you can change them if you like, but this is how we're currently functioning. And I think it's important to walk through them. So I want to begin this by saying all council meetings and all committee meetings are meetings of those groups in public. They're not necessarily all public hearings or public debates. The role of the council is to get done the work of the community. So you are to take action, you are to have debate, you are to collect information, whether that's from your professional staff or from the community and the public, and debate that. It's not necessarily the role of the council to debate with the public during these meetings. So to ensure we're doing that and holding that trust, following some rules of procedure is really important. So as you know, you just elected officers, the chair runs the meeting. A quorum of the council is 3, meaning if there are only, it's not the majority of those present, it's the majority of the full council. So you have to have 3 councilors present to take action. It also means if you're out in the community, having a meeting where you're discussing and debating what you're going to do, and then you come into the meeting and take action, that is considered a violation of quorum. All actions and direction of the council are done in the affirmative. So you don't vote not to do something, you have to vote to do something. Each agenda includes a set of things. There's by statute there has to be an opportunity for public comment at the beginning of each meeting. You have to approve your agenda and add or take things off at the beginning of your meeting. We often have a consent agenda, which is made up of items for which you have already established policy that we are bringing back to you, or are de minimis items that we are doing as part of your fiduciary or other oversight of the city. You then have action items. We do reports from the managers and the councilors, and then obviously executive sessions as needed. In your agenda, you will see that the vast majority of agenda items, unless they're really perfunctory, have cover sheets attached to them. These are one-pagers that the department heads and staff complete for you to give you a uniform, quick glance at what's being asked of you, what the financial impacts are, how they connect back to the city plan, and any background information. There's often usually many more pages of documentation behind that, but it's our attempt to allow you to have that kind of flashback data source. In our rules of procedure, the chair speaks on behalf of the council, and no councilor can speak for the council unless otherwise approved to do so. The chair and I set the agenda for the meetings. 2 councilors can request any item be added to the agenda. And we ask for those the Tuesday prior to a meeting. When Tuesday is the day, just for, so you all know, Tuesday is the day where department heads have to provide me information for the agenda. Wednesday, I review all of those documents and we publish the agenda on Thursdays. Each week, you will also, well, most weeks, you will get I will share with you an agenda planner. It's a large Excel workbook that has a tab for each meeting throughout the year. It's what we use every day as a tickler system of what's coming to the council when. So in order for us not to surprise you, we share that with you so you know what's coming up in the future. Yeah, please.
My microphone on. So, and maybe you talk about this later. Are you going to go into more detail about the procedure for discussing things with the public? I mean, I know the council often discusses things amongst themselves, but I'm wondering what the rules are around interacting with members of the public when they make public comment. I know that when they make public comment that's not on the agenda, we're not allowed to respond to that, but what are the rules for, if someone's making a comment on something that's on the agenda, are we allowed to discuss that directly with the person who's at the podium?
So that's a great question, and I would encourage the 5 of you to have a conversation about that. There's no statutory requirement about that. There is how we have done things, and I think that there are best practice of how to run the smoothest meetings given that, but that is a standard that you all could set among yourselves.
Okay.
Would you like me to pause here to have that conversation? Or keep going and come back to that conversation?
Well, I think you'll see later, you have another slide that talks about how the meeting is run and how the public is supposed to address the council chair and not other members of the audience or specific councilors, unless that dialogue is approved, so to speak, right? So, but we take turns, right? If somebody asks to speak about something, and especially when there's discussion among the council in public, right? So I think it's been working well. There hasn't been a problem.
I think my perspective is that, and on occasion we do have back and forth with a member of the public who has something particularly interesting to say, expertise to add, particular information. I think that can be a useful dialogue. It doesn't happen all the time, but if it appears to be useful, I think we should do it.
It's also something that can and has at times gotten a little out of control in terms of keeping an agenda moving forward effectively. And typically it is up to our esteemed chair to rein things in if they're getting off the rails in terms of moving the agenda forward.
And I've been guilty of that when I wasn't chair before at times. So I recognize that.
And sometimes the chair has to be reined in, but not as often.
Yeah, I think it's a tough line, Beth, from my perspective, because you want to give the opportunity for feedback, comments, questions, observations, and I do look to Tim. And then I think it's very appropriate for Tim or Jesse to volunteer clarifying comments, because oftentimes that is what the community member is looking for. But the other thing that I think is helpful is to, if there are a lot of people in particular, if there's not many people, it isn't, that much of a drain on the agenda time. But if there are more people interested in a topic, Tim, you typically will set a time frame and then invite people to not necessarily repeat the same comments over again, to sort of add new information to the conversation. And I think that's pretty respectful. It's a tough balance, because I know I've received feedback over the years that sometimes the public can feel very shut down and dismissed. And I also think if you don't come to these meetings often and you have a question and it's not on the agenda, you have an expectation that you might get an answer. And I think that's an opportunity, Tim, for you to remind people that that part of the session is we're not obligated to respond, but that, put it in writing, send an email, and they might get a response, or they would more likely get a response that way.
I guess
Thank you.
I would just also add, I do think, I'm going to harken back to something Councilor Chonlick said during his updates about people participating, people voting, and therefore feeling like they have access to government. And I think one of our key roles is to ensure that everyone who is before us has equal access and equal privilege. And I think that is hard to obtain sometimes when you're new to sitting in this room, and it's very clear that others in the room have relationships with you all or know the language of the policy conversation. It's a culture that we have here in this form of government. So I think it is something that I think we should pay attention to and make sure that anyone who's speaking is kind of treated the same and has access to the same information. And I'm sure, as we have more conversations about engagement and access to the policy tables, I think it is something we may want to talk about through the year, of how we make that more transparent and known to more folks who want to show up. So if you have ideas on that, I certainly welcome them. I will also say, when you are out in the community talking to people, or here at the council meeting, if folks have, how does this work? How do I function in this? How do I make this thing happen? How do I interact with government this way? Always feel free to pass them to me, shoot me an email, say, can you follow up on this? This would be a great idea for a SB bulletin item. We're always you have a different pulse of what the questions are out in the public than we do. So it's always useful to hear what we need to be doing a better job communicating on. Right, great question. Keep them coming. Couple of slides on transparency and ethics. So the council and our committees are required to follow the Vermont open meeting law statutes and the conflict of interest statutes. And really the goal of being transparent and following open meeting laws is to ensure that the public trust that that you all hold is preserved, and ensures that all decisions are made by you all based on the best interests of the municipality. So a few guiding principles as you think about holding that trust and transparency is everything you do as a councilor is considered a public record. Please use your South Burlington email addresses that you are given. If you send an email to staff from a different email, we are going to put it onto your South Burlington email address. And in the interest of full transparency, we get many, many public records requests a year, and we will go into your emails and search things and pull them out. So just be very conscientious about what you put in your government emails, and use them for city business. If we and the city attorney can speak more about this. If there's a public records request that references a non-city email, we can go into that account as well and pull things out to be responsive. So please be diligent with that. We are required to warn all of our meetings and produce minutes. We are also required by statute now to video archive them. Thank you, Travis and Town Meeting TV, for your partnership. We talked about instances where 3 or more counselors are present. Again, really the idea here is that debate about policy should happen in the public, not just action. So if you are debating an issue and there are more than 3 or more of you doing that, please do that in public, in this public. We can use email between the 6 of us or the 7 or 8 of us to share information. So there are often times when I will email you updates, documents, different things you will need to know over time. That is not considered debate, that is considered information sharing. But if you reply all to that and start debating, oh, well, should we really be going in this direction? Should we be going in that direction? We quickly run the risk of violating that open meeting law. So again, just be aware of that reply all option. And then for executive sessions,
On that
please.
one, if information is sent out about a particular topic, debate is not an option, but if one of the counselors has additional information that wants to be added for the purpose of discussion in public, that is okay to do. Is that correct?
So, Colin, feel free to jump in here.
I'm asking this because it's always trying to be clear where that line is.
Yeah. So how I interpret it is information sharing is always okay. Yeah. What isn't okay is, oh, yes, I read that article, it's a good point, but really this other article is a better example of whatever, or here's a counter, and then you very quickly get in you're debating via information thing. Yeah. So it can be done. I would just be conscious of
If the second article is brought forward, it's just say, here's another article we might want to consider when we're debating.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Colin McNeil, City Attorney. Yes, that is correct. I think you can use the reply all for limited purposes of scheduling and limited purposes of information sharing. But again, as Jesse, City Manager, outlined, it's a very fine line, and you want to avoid having any kind of discussion or debate away from the public by means of that reply all function.
You know, to that point, Lori, I assume that some of that is sharing for what would show up on an agenda item at some point. So I wonder if rather than, because I can imagine there's a little bit of positioning with which articles that might follow on as informational. I wonder if it shouldn't be forwarded by Tuesday to be included in the agenda as an option.
Colin, while you're here, because this always comes up as open meeting law, and I know it's not simple, but I just want to get it out there. Let's say I'm chatting with Elizabeth about something. Can I, the next day, chat with Tim about something similar?
I'm so glad you're here, Colin.
Yeah. These are really difficult conversations. So consider that our open meeting law, the idea is that we have that you as a public body have your conversations in public that the public can hear and we can document. That is the purpose of it, and that's what we have as a body. You're doing the public's business. So anytime you're engaging in the public's business outside of the public eye, theoretically that is in opposition to what the purpose of the open meeting law is. We have issued recommendations, and the state has as well, the Secretary of State, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and interpreting this in the courts. When you're looking at the reply all function on an email, you're looking at a Google document, and you all have the authority to make edits, even though you're doing them at different times. It's been recommended that is close enough to a public meeting to be something to avoid. So I think when you're having conversations, if you're having the same conversation in a chain, like if you're having a phone chain, for instance, we don't have those very often anymore. But if you call someone and someone calls someone and you're all having the same thing and you actually take a vote basically on that topic, that is a very close to being in violation of the public meeting law. So I think when you're having the conversations, like you're entitled to talk to one or two counselors, can talk to each other as long as you don't have a quorum and you're not engaging in public business. Be very careful and mindful of doing the public business in the public eye and trying to avoid having meetings that are not in the public.
And in that regard, if two counselors are working on a document that they're preparing to bring forward to council, and it's a Google Doc, and they are both editing it, that is not in violation of open meeting law because it's just two counselors. Is that correct?
The purpose of the prohibition in the open meeting law is to prohibit a quorum from having a meeting. If you do not have a quorum, you're not engaged in a public meeting.
Great, thank you. Tricky line.
Stay up here for just this one and the next one, and then I think we'll be good with you. The last point about open meeting law in your agendas is we do often have executive sessions. In advance of those executive sessions, you will be likely forwarded confidential emails that may have documents that we would like you to review in advance of a session. Please do not forward those confidential emails. Colin and me and our staff try and be very clear when we're sending you an email that's confidential that we'll mark that so you are aware. And obviously don't talk about what happens in executive session outside of executive session until a action is taken in open session.
Does the public have no way of ever knowing what goes on in an executive session? That almost seems a bit non-transparent to me. You know, like that could foster some suspicion that the council is, you know, doing things that are against the interest of the public.
Yeah.
Do they have no way of accessing those records?
They generally do not have. There is no minutes that are required to be taken in executive session, and it is the purpose of an executive session is that it's essentially a component of the meeting that is taking place outside of the public. So it's not a public meeting essentially, or it's a component of a public meeting that takes place outside the public. No action can be taken in executive session. So discussion can be had on certain limited topics for certain limited purposes with certain limited people. But no action can be taken. So any action that the council is going to engage in cannot take place in executive session. You have to come out of executive session to actually take an action.
Can I caveat that in one way? So we do cite on the agenda the statutory reason why we're going into executive session, and we try and give as much information of that as we can while protecting your liability rights to hold the executive session. So for example, we will say enter into an executive session for the purposes of discussing a collective bargaining agreement with our fire union. So in that executive session warned for that purpose, that is all we can talk about. We can't then talk about, you know, why Jesse is wearing that crazy suit jacket today. We're talking about solely those things. So we are trying to give the community some notice of what is being discussed while maintaining your right to have that confidential conversation.
I think the other thing to be aware of, there's only a limited set of things that the council is permitted to discuss in executive session, and those are things where you can understand intuitively why they need to be kept out of the, open debate.
And in regard to Beth's question, this council has been accused of doing things inappropriately in executive session by members of the public in the recent past, and it's something that we're very aware of. And Jesse and Colin are both really good at making sure that we don't step outside of the bounds of what is allowed in executive session. And getting that confirmed with the public is really important to know that we are doing it for a specific fiduciary reason.
So although the session itself is opaque, right? We come out of it, we take action. The action may be to approve a contract and maybe to approve a sale of real estate or purchase real estate, whatever it might be, right? But then the public sees that's what we were talking about. We made a decision and came out and executed that in public. So that's the result of what happened in the session.
So the kind of other side of transparency balance to open meeting law is the municipal code of ethics, which is also state statute. This recently changed effective last January. Historically, it used to be that we had our own code of conduct, and now there is a one municipal code of ethics conduct for all municipalities in the state. It is linked there at that hyperlink. All councilors are required to complete a training on that municipal code of ethics within 120 days of election. So that is homework for you. And then every 3 years after, the city attorney by ordinance the council set is our ethics liaison officer. So there are rules that Colin adheres to as in that context. And then there are a number of resources that the state and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns have put out to summarize how a conflict of interest is defined and what you do when you believe you are either in conflict or could be perceived to be in conflict. So the big takeaways here are: 1, please complete the training and understand the statute. 2, it is the councilor's obligation themselves to identify if they have a real or perceived conflict. There's not necessarily a ability for another councilor to attach conflict. It is a self-identified conflict. If you are in conflict, you shall not participate or take action on whatever that item is. And the conflict really is primarily about fiduciary benefit. What this does not mean is I pay taxes in South Burlington, therefore I can't vote on the tax rate because I want my taxes to be lower. If the action you are taking applies equally to all similarly situated residents, you are not in conflict with that decision. I do want to note that unfortunately the State Ethics Commission that is charged with enforcing this has suspended all municipal services due to staffing. So I will leave it there.
So they won't answer our questions anymore if we have them?
That's correct. There's no one there to answer our questions. But as we've talked about, as city attorney, I'm also the ethics liaison. We have a backup person who's the deputy city manager to conduct enforcement actions if there's a complaint. So if there is a question about the ethics code of ethics, please feel free to give me a call and we can chat about it and talk it through. That would likely result that I am no longer the investigator if a complaint comes up about that same action. But I think that's a good service to have, and I'd rather help out dealing with potential ethics questions preemptively than after the fact. So we're available to you.
Because one thing that came up when this code first came out was whether campaign contributions were conflicts, right? It was unclear, and the State Ethics Commission clarified that they're not, which was helpful. So it's unfortunate that we don't have that anymore.
It is unfortunate, but hopefully it returns soon. I think it was a matter of staffing. And so we're optimistic that it will come back because that is a valuable resource for questions. And they are under the statute, they are set up to provide advisory opinions when we ask. So without those services provided, they can't do that service that's designated by statute. But so hopefully that comes back soon.
Were they the final adjudicator in complaints that ascended above the city level, or what is the appeal process or the steps that are there that happen?
I think there is an appeal process set forth. It would be that the liaison officer would investigate and issue a decision based on whether there is a violation or not a violation. That could then be appealed likely to Superior Court. I think that's how it's set up.
Okay, I didn't know.
This is a slightly off-topic question, but the municipal code of ethics was implemented by the legislature. It does not cover the legislature, if I understand correctly.
They have a separate.
They have their separate code of ethics, which is quite a bit different than ours. Is any effort being made to bring those two into alignment, or is there any move from our city to discuss that and have it be something that gets brought into alignment, because it creates a a bad image to the public to have these bodies operating under such different codes.
I'm not aware of any development towards that effort. I did just want to point out on the website, when you go to the Municipal Code of Ethics, it's on, and the training that's here. Councilor Zygmunt, it's a little confusing. There's a Municipal Code of Ethics and there's a State Code of Ethics. Please take the training on the Municipal Code of Ethics
I got that. Yeah, thanks.
for a lot of people because they're right next to each other.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about this for now? And this is, it's very, for Steve and Colin and I, it's very important that we function ethically within our own professional obligations, and that this is the primary way we hold trust with the community. So if you do have questions about this, or just want to run a question up the flagpole, please feel free to reach out to Colin or me or Steve. And with that, I'm going to move. Thus far in this presentation, I've been talking about authorities and responsibilities and statute. I'm now going to move into municipal operations. And I believe that Colin has somewhere very important to be, so he may leave us.
My son has a playoff basketball game tonight, so I'd like to go watch.
Congratulations to that, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Colin. He will be on his phone if we really need him later in the meeting. So you are the elected body charged with providing fiduciary oversight and policy guidance to our city staff. We have an amazing team here in South Burlington. I would argue the best municipal professionals in the state. We have 192 total employees, 172 full-time employees, and then many other part-time employees, subs, and per diems, and seasonal staff. Our staff are represented by 3 bargaining units. So there's the Career Firefighters Association, there's the Police Officers Association, and then the state AFSCME represents our Public Works, City Hall, and library staff. Due to a ton of hard work, I should have said this while Colin was in the room, by Colin and Steve and Martha and Maddie, we are under contract with all of those bargaining groups at the moment, and we have, with the last round of contract negotiations, staggered their expiration, which means we're not renegotiating all 3 on the same time period, which is great. The council has under the charter approves all of our employee policies. So this past council adopted a new employee handbook about this time last year, I believe. What I want to draw your attention to specifically is one of the key components in that handbook is that the council serves as the hearing officer for step 3 grievances in the city. And why that's important, that sounds really wonky as I say it out loud, but why that's important is if we are taking a personnel action against a staff person, they have a right to appeal that action. They appeal it at step 1 to the department head, at step 2 to me, and at step 3 to you. This can be really frustrating for councilors because it means that if we have a big employment action going on, I can't talk to you about it because you all need to be neutral hearing officers to hear grievances against my decision making. So often, not often because thankfully it doesn't happen often, but when it happens, there will be times where I will say, we have a personnel action going on. I'm not going to share additional information. Sometimes I will share that with you because it's something that's in the news. And you will need to stay neutral so you can serve as that step 3 hearing officer. Any questions, comments on that?
And you can't share that with us until it's resolved because it might go to step 3. So
Right.
There are things that haven't gotten there yet that you can't share with us, and we need to understand that.
Yep. Thank you. So a few things on communicating with staff. So as I mentioned earlier, I am your staff person. I am the only person that you employ. So questions and requests should all come through me. To the extent that you are asking a question that's a general question about city operations or history, I will often share that with the full council. one of the ways I hold trust with the 5 of you is to make sure you all have as much of the same information as possible. So I will do that from time to time. If you're asking me a quick question of like, oh, can you remind me, when that trivia thing was, I'm not going to reply all to the full council and share that necessarily. We do certainly encourage you to tour facilities, meet with department heads, reach out to us with questions about items on the agenda ahead of time. We feel it is our professional obligation to give you the best information we can, and it's helpful to know what those questions will be in advance. You also can obviously always ask any question. We as a team failed to do facility tours for the last 2 years because we could not find a date that worked for everybody.
I was going to
So
say
I'm
that
trying
invitation
it
to
again.
attend was
So please, there's a doodle poll in your inbox. Please complete that, and we will do our best to get you out to all of the facilities in the city. To the extent that you are emailing with a staff person, whether it be on a project or as a staff council liaison or with questions, please CC me on that. It helps me, one, back up my staff so I'm not confusing you with different direction than our professional experts are sharing, and two, just make sure we're kind of all staying on the same page. The team is really good at adding me to emails. If you forget, don't worry about it. You will likely just see my name pop up on those things.
I'm a little confused. So we are allowed to communicate directly with staff, but we're not supposed to.
It will happen.
But if we do it, we should keep you in the loop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are
all right.
times you are not to direct staff to do something, and you are not to have kind of offline conversations with them, which is why they know to CC me. The reality is you will have conversations with staff all the time. I will point you to staff. I will say, hey, can you just follow up with Steve about something? You're going to have that conversation. It's helpful to me to know what that answer was. So again, I can champion the staff and we can all be as informed as possible.
I would recommend it's the safest way is to always start with Jessie, let her farm that out to whoever the contact is, and then let that conversation happen. But I think if you start with Jessie, it makes everything else much simpler.
Thanks.
I would, so this is not in policy, it's just a practice that I think works. If constituents will ask you operational questions all the time. If they are asking you operational questions and you know the answer, by all means, you are part of the mouthpiece of the city. Feel free to answer those questions. If you don't know, I would highly encourage you to say, I'm not, I've asked the city manager to answer this question. She'll keep me on so I can track the answer and share those with me. And we will answer those questions. Why I think this is best practice is that often those answers are not going to be political wins for you. They're going to ask you, well, why aren't you paving my street this week or this year? Why is this pothole in front of my house? And the answer will be hard for the constituent to hear. Let me take that. You don't need to take that politically. That's my recommendation. You certainly can go a different way if you would like. The final thing I want to mention is emergency situations. So there will be times during your service that we have emergent fires, police operations, other emergency situations in the city. During those times, I will do my best to keep you informed. I always try and make sure you hear about things from me before you read about them in the media. Having said that, the primary goal in those situations is keeping the public safe. So there may be times that we don't want you talking to the chiefs. We don't want you dealing with the first responders because they are actively engaging to monitor an emergent situation. In those cases, I will be the primary contact. I might bring in the chair to be the primary contact, but things like that may happen. Anything to add about that?
That's worked out well in the past because we've had different types of emergencies, and whether you just give an initial thing, we've got this thing that's going on right now, we'll tell you more later. right? And so that at least we are aware of it, right? But we don't start barraging, anybody with questions. So it's good policy.
So another significant part of our operations as a government is the boards and committees that you have convened or that exist in statute. So they fall into a couple of different buckets. There's what I call the regulatory committees, which are committees that are, or boards that are named somewhere in statute. They have often an independent authority outside of council or staff. There are policy committees of the council. These are solely committees that you all or past councils have identified as things that are of value to you to hear committee feedback on as you develop your policies. These are not operational committees. They are really policy advising to you. From time to time, the council appoints task forces, which are really meant to be groups of people coming to do work that is time delineated. So produce a climate action plan, consider airport rezoning. And they start and end. Right now, we don't have any task forces operational. And then there's a whole other section of public organizations that the council either serves on or appoints members to that are regional partners with us in providing services to our neighbors. So we've talked a little about this already. Constituents, again, they will look to you for all sorts of answers. Please let me know how I can help. To the extent that they're asking questions about how I have allocated resources or managing services, feel free to pass them along to me. The councilors should really avoid speaking on behalf of the council, except as to talk about action that's been previously adopted by the full council. You can obviously talk about your personal opinions, but the council as a whole, you have no authority. I should have said this much earlier. Individually, you have no authority, but for being one of 5 votes. So any action that is taken by the council is through a vote of the council. Similar set of expectations apply in talking to the media. Primarily, the media contact is the chair. Councilors from time to time are authorized to speak to the media on a particular thing by the full council, and that's of course encouraged. Any day-to-day questions should come from me, and I do see it as part of my role to be your champion and to speak on behalf of the policy that you also have adopted. So I can also do that as required. I included these as reference because I think it is really important as we ensure that we have healthy policy debates, that people feel welcome at policy tables, that we focus on civility and dignity in the work we do. So the Dignity Index is just a resource that several councilors and I heard about at Town Fair last year. The Councilor Smith wrote a conversation with wrote a Councilor Corner on the Dignity Index, and of course a previous council has adopted the Declaration of Inclusion as well.
Question on the Dignity Index. I know that the Lake Champlain Chamber is what brought it, or the Vermont League of Cities and Towns is what brought it to us. There was discussion both at that level, and I think there's been some discussion at the city level of trying to get some of their materials available in our public spaces. Is that moving forward? Did you know? It can.
Yes.
But it's not currently.
It's not currently.
So it would need a vote of us to make it happen.
Or head nods. I mean,
I would like to see that material made available. I don't know if other people feel the same way.
I mean, the question, how to package it? Do we put something on? I mean, there's some work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Some work to do, or how to package it and what exactly it looks like. But it's certainly a very useful set of material.
Yeah, I was not able to go to that meeting, and obviously Beth, you were not able to attend. But it might be helpful to put it on an agenda so we could specifically have that discussion of how to utilize those materials.
That would be great, and we could actually present the materials at that conversation. So is that now
Sounds
scheduled to be on an
Two
agenda item.
councilors are
Two
saying
councilors
they
are
want to
saying
put
it.
that on the
Great,
agenda.
thank you.
That's a minimum right there too.
So I think you all at this point in the year are very familiar with our now approved FY27 total budget. Why I wanted to focus on that for a minute is what is your ongoing role in your financial oversight over the course of the year. So at every meeting you will see, well, not this one, but the vast majority of meetings you will see warrants for approval. You have to approve every payment we make as a city, so you will have that on most of your consent agenda item or consent agendas. You will also receive monthly financial reports from us per statute, and then detailed quarterly financial reports. We are working on these right now. This year, because we implemented our new finance system, we're actually going to provide you with what we're calling kind of quarter 2 plus, which will be quarters 1, 2, and January, Steve, through January. That give us the best best view of how we are tracking towards year end as we go approach quarter 4. So you'll get that at your next meeting, and we'll have a more detailed conversation about that.
Is that a push button thing that's really automatic now for you, just to define the date range and boom, it just spits out?
It's getting closer to that, but but with that, we still send it out to the department heads so that they can provide their narratives about why numbers may look askew. So while it's easier real time to show the information, we still ask the department heads to do that workload, and that's the layer that will never go away.
Thanks.
And then, of course, you have your annual budget process that kicks off in September with projections and goal setting. In October and November, staff build the proposed budget. In December and January, the council receives the budget and discusses it and makes changes and approves the budget to go to the voters. February, focus on education, and obviously March is town meeting day.
Small item for Beth on the bi-weekly warrants. We only meet twice a month. Some months have 5 weeks. So it is occasional that a warrant gets handled by the chair or the vice chair to get so that those signatures and payments can go out.
Yep. So per the policy, if we need a special warrant, it's actually the vice chair that reviews and approves that, and then it's included in your next agenda.
So you'll see those every once in a while.
It's really to make sure we stay current on bills and don't get late charges, and and then obviously it's still the council's role to approve all special funds, all financial policies, allocations from fund balances, setting fee structures. So you will see throughout the year on the agenda many other financial pieces of policy and action. You will also have to approve applying for all grants. So I think you all are also very familiar with our organizational documents, our plans for who we are as a city and a community. Primarily, those are the City Plan 2024 and the Climate Action Plan. I bring those up to say, again, I think you all are very familiar with this, but in our form of government, it is our professional obligation to implement the policy that is set by the council. And within the city plan, there are millions of ways we could do that on a day-to-day basis. So we use an annual, what I very dorkily call our policy priorities and strategies process. I'm totally open to a better name if somebody can come up with a better name than that, where we go through with the committees, the leadership team, the department heads of the city, and the council to decide and align our work plan for the year. What are we doing this year to further the goals of the city plan? Linked here is our FY26 adopted policies and strategies, and the most recent report we did on that shared work plan in February. We're going to talk a little more about that later in our agenda. We're doing a lot of work. This is just a selection of what's on our current FY26 policies and strategies. I say this to acknowledge that councilors often can feel really frustrated that they are jumping on a moving train, that there are a lot of things that we do as a city that have been underway for months and years, and in some cases decades. The council obviously always has the ability to shift those priorities, but that often will come with implications. So you sometimes may feel that we are pushing back on you, and what we are really trying to do is outline the implications of changing priorities. What the FY26 policy and priorities do not include, it is not an inventory of all the work the city does. It really is focused on those strategic things we are trying to change for the city. And in addition, the vast majority of our staff are providing core government services. So police response, fire response, maintaining roads, sidewalks, bridges, processing invoices, checking out library books, running rec programs, etc. So in addition to implementing the city plan, and in the city plan is obviously our TIF district, our tax increment financing district, and achieving the goals of city center. I think you all now are very familiar with what these projects are. Happy to answer any questions about them. Really excited for the city center park boardwalk to open later this year, and to get to work on constructing Garden Street connection from Market Street to Williston Road. And all of that is in service to ensuring that we wrap up our tax increment financing district successfully in 2037 or beyond. We have TIF is a 20-year effort in Vermont. We are about halfway through that effort, but it is important that we stay focused on it so we can successfully wrap up the debt service obligations we have under our TIF district. And you will hear much more about this over the course of the year. So I want to share a bit about how we communicate with the public. So we have our primary tool is the website, or our South Burlington Bulletin, formerly known as City News, that goes out or every other week to folks who have signed up for it. We really encourage you to encourage people to sign up for South Burlington Bulletin. Andy, who you met earlier tonight, is our communications and outreach manager, and he works with the department heads of the city to make sure that to try and get out as much information in a succinct, accessible way as possible. If you have suggestions about items that we should include, how we message things differently, we are always open to those.
Did you mean archive there?
Sure did. Yep. So we also have all of our social media accounts, our annual report, and our budget book. You all have Conversation with the Councilor, which is later in your agenda, and Town Meeting TV is a great partner in broadcasting our statutory committees and archiving all of our meetings per statute. So finally, just wanted to share, this slide is a little different than the one in your packet because I added some things and Adam shared with me today. So upcoming opportunities, again, facilities tours, please complete the doodle poll. The prior council found it very useful to have what we called working meetings, or meetings in 301 that were warned and video and broadcast, but we're around a table, we're more conversational. So at your pleasure, we can certainly do that again. March 30th is the next Chittenden County Municipal Elected Officials Forum. I'd encourage 2 of you to identify yourselves to attend that. There are quorum issues associated with that. Adam Math, our Recreation Director, and his team have done an amazing job putting together an international food festival that will be April 19th here at City Hall. Illuminate Vermont, our annual Market Street Festival, is April 24th and 25th. And our first inaugural Brew the 802, which is our beer fest, sure, is May 23rd here on Detilio Drive. I believe he has 14 breweries lined up to attend that brew fest. And then hopefully in June or July, we will do our FY27 policy priorities and strategies working meeting.
With the Chittenden County, oh, sorry. Oh, that's the triannual forum. Is that the same thing that CCRPC has
Yeah.
been doing regularly?
Yep.
Is that typically just being presented by or represented by Tim and Andrew, or is it going to be circulated around?
You guys can decide that. It should only be two of you.
It's only two. At some point, it might be. I'd like to have continuity in the presentation, so if it's better for just the two of you to do it regularly, I'm fine with that. But it could be interesting to get the perspective of our community or our neighboring communities. So
I would have been interested in attending last year if we had more
I
opportunity, but yeah, I think
just thought I'd raise it as a question.
I was adding things to my calendar, so remind me. What event are you talking about?
The CCRPC elected
Oh, the
officials
little pizza
forum.
parties we have?
Yeah, your pizza parties.
Well,
I want more pizza. No.
we can shuffle it around if you want. I mean, they're really informational, and it's good to network and make connections with other counselors and select board people. And so I don't mind. Like
If it's more effective to have two people always representing,
it is, I think.
I'm open to doing that.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to go sometime, or interesting.
You just want free pizza is what you want.
That's right. Just expanding that connection among the communities.
So the next one is March 30th. So you all may want to talk about who's going to that one. It's
Has that been published yet?
So, but
Yeah.
we've only been to one. I mean, I think continuity is useful, but I'm also
I've been to two.
I've been to one. Very happy. I mean, if someone else really wants to go, then
yeah, I think there's just not another opportunity like that for networking. So I would
Okay.
I would appreciate going, but I understand the
Yeah.
continuity issue.
so
Maybe it makes sense to have our chair, if possible, always attend and just rotate the additional position.
We can try unless there's a conflict. Unless I might have. a
Yeah,
conflict,
of course,
Yeah.
of course. But I'm happy to defer to somebody else right now. I don't feel a need. I just wanted to bring it up as conversation.
all right. So Tim and Elizabeth for March 30th.
And can I bring up on the communication? I don't think the counselor corner in the other paper was highlighted.
No. I didn't.
And I know I brought this up last year, and it seems like it's a very kind of ad hoc as to when one of us might write an article and what we write about. I still think it might be helpful if we had some rotation, and maybe a person still wrote what they wanted to, but just let each of us know what they were going to write on, but just to give some visibility to each of us in that form, because I think we've not published in some editions, and it's been kind of a potpourri of topics.
So I kind of think I like not having a formal rotation because
Mhm.
you know there may be a time when there's nothing that I really do want to write about, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know what, I really want to write about that thing, and it may not be
Mhm.
necessarily on that timetable. So I guess my perspective would be if one of us has something that they want to write about, just share it with the other councils that I'd like to write about this thing. Okay, do you want to see it? And that seems to be working okay.
Elizabeth, do you think there's a cadence that we wanted to maintain throughout the year? Like,
I guess that's what I mean, given that there has been some feedback that the public, some of the public may feel like they don't get enough information. I think a presence is helpful. And I also think just a reminder sort of who's on council, who to contact, that sort of thing. I understand your point, and I don't think it necessarily has to be a schedule, but maybe just an attentiveness to, is anybody doing something this month, or is anybody interested in doing something this month, and knowing there are deadlines for those too. So maybe that's more what I'm suggesting than a formal calendar.
And to the point of communicating with the public, Amy Allen in her campaign and during your debate brought up that she had lots of ideas for how to do more with video and other things for communicating. She talked about it at a council conversation with the council once. I think anything we can do to improve our communication with the community is excellent, and I'm intending to reach out to Amy to see if she's willing to engage with some of the thoughts that she had to help that process move along.
So why don't I, do you think a monthly is a goal?
I think that's a good goal.
A good goal? Okay,
Mhm.
all right. So why don't I take responsibility for that, all right, and try to elicit responses from councilors on a monthly basis and say, here's the schedule, here's the deadline for each of the weeks in that month, for getting something in the other paper, and just try to, to get it in there for that month. And if you want to give me ideas about things that we should communicate, that's fine too.
Mhm.
So.
Sure. Great. Any other questions or comments?
Great job.
Did I cover it all?
Wastewater tour, that's number one.
I'm telling you,
That sounds very interesting, actually.
it's highly scientific. It's really fascinating.
Really interesting.
Okay. So you have lots of other agenda items that
Oh,
I
we
will
do.
keep speaking
Okay.
to, but that's it for
That was item 7. So now we're going to go to item 8, which is adopt the 2026 to 2027 City Council Rules of Procedure.
So you have attached a draft of this procedure. This is the same document that the council adopted last year, just with updated names and dates. So I'm not recommending any changes to this procedure. It is based on a model Vermont League of Cities and Towns policy. And I think I've talked to most of what's in there already in the orientation, but I guess just to say a few more things about agendas and council meetings that is outlined in this procedure. One, just a reminder, as you've already done tonight, 2 councilors are needed to add any item to an agenda, or by our charter says that if 15 folks come forward and ask for an agenda item, we are required to put it on an agenda, which I had forgotten about until I reread this. And then councilors are allowed to participate in meetings remotely via Zoom. And if a councilor is participating remotely and there's a non-unanimous vote, we will do all votes by roll call for the record, it's part of statute. That's what I wanted to highlight.
Move to approve.
So I move to adopt the 2026-2027 City Council Rules of Procedure.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have a discussion on this item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We have adopted the council rules of procedure. Thank you. Item 9, appoint charter and ordinance required positions for a period of 1 year as outlined.
So in your agenda is a cover sheet that outlines all of those positions that are either listed in our city charter or listed in ordinance, and who I am asking you to appoint into those positions. All of the people are remaining the same from last year to this year, but for Marty, who was our assistant zoning administrator, who left us this past year, we are now asking for Alex, who has replaced him, to be put into that position. And we're adding Justin Mackey as our second constable, who is a sworn police officer who lives here in South Burlington.
So I move to adopt the individual below to specific positions per the city charter and city ordinances as outlined below.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We're now at item 10, which is discuss and possibly approve the 2026 City Council meeting schedule pursuant to the City Charter, Chapter 13, Section 305A.
So according to the city charter, as soon as possible after the election, which I guess we have not done as soon as possible of the officers, you are to fix the time and place of your regular meetings and meet at least twice a month. So I've outlined assuming we keep the first and third Mondays of the month at 6:30, what those will be throughout the year, and any big notes about those meetings throughout the year. And just to note also that this does not include steering committee meetings, which are joint meetings of the city council and school board that we by charter are to have 4 times a year. Nor does it include likely a special meeting needed the week of June 29th to set the municipal tax rate, which is required by statute, but also a math equation, so not one that you have a lot of flexibility in doing. So I would recommend.
And this does not include like our retreats.
Right. You can always add to this for retreats or working meetings.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 council meeting schedule as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I did indicate already to Jesse and you, Tim, that I am not available April 6th.
April 6th?
Yeah.
April 6th, okay. And we'll be here April 20th if the plane arrives. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. All right. Item 11, designate the other paper as our official paper of record.
So by statute, you are to have an official paper of record. It's where we do all of our public hearing notices. We have used the other paper for many, many years because it's sent to every home, seems to be the most appropriate.
We need a motion?
Mhm.
So I move to designate the other paper as our official paper of record.
Second that?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Just for your information, their headquarters has moved to Stowe. They no longer have, I think, an office in South Burlington anymore. So that was published in their paper itself. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Item 12, designate TD Bank as our official depository.
I move to designate TD Bank as our official depository.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous as well. So item 13, discuss and possibly approve the council liaisons for each policy committee and the FY27 policy priorities and strategies process.
So I added this to this agenda because one, with the addition of Councilor Zygmunt, you have the opportunity to look at your liaison appointments, who serves as a liaison to what committees. And just a reminder, I want to define what the role of a council liaison is. So one, it should be appointed by the full council to each policy advisory committee. The only exception to that is by charter, the chair serves as liaison to the planning commission. The council liaisons are not to vote as part of the committee unless as specifically designated. So I believe like when we started the Climate Action Task Force, the appointees were appointed with voting power. So that's the exception to that. The council liaison is to work with the staff liaison chair to guide the committee's work and to be the kind of spokesperson of the council's vision for the committee to the committee, and to keep the full council informed about what each committee is working on, and support the chair in bringing items to the council. And you're not necessarily expected to attend all the meetings because it's a lot, but certainly encouraged to do so. So there's that part. Do you want to have the discussion tonight about who's going to be assigned to what committees? And then the second part of the request is we have in past meetings talked about doing a better job integrating the committee's anticipated or requested work plans into our policies and strategies annual process. And in order to do that, the time's a ticking. So my hope was to have you all review the schedule that was in the packet and think about, as council liaisons to the committees, working with the staff liaisons in March and April to finalize those proposed work plans for FY27, so they could come to the leadership team and council in May and June as part of our building of our shared work plan. So those are the two requests. And if you need more time to think about this, we certainly could put it on your next agenda as well.
Quick question. I should know this because I'm on the energy committee. I was on the energy committee. I guess I might still be. Are those meetings recorded?
No.
They're not. Okay.
Yeah. The statute requires us to record council meetings, DRB meetings, planning commission meetings, library trustees meetings, and BCA meetings.
One thing I'd like to possibly carry over to our next meeting would be to have a conversation or start the conversation about the makeup of our committees and if and where consolidation or reconfiguring committees would be useful. One area of conversation certainly is between the Recreation and Parks Committee and Natural Resources Committee, and there may be other committee structures where that's also worth talking about. So I would like to see that at some point. I don't feel the need to do it tonight.
Do we also need to appoint the newest counselor to a committee?
All of them.
There is definitely one open slot in there, but before we do any appointments, does anybody have a desire to shift committees or absorb more or give one away? Is everybody comfortable with what they have at this point and like their committees? Yeah. I'm satisfied. So the only opening there is public art. Beth, would you like to be the liaison to the public art committee? All I can tell you is that it's the most fun committee of all of them.
I'm sure it's really fun, and everybody in my family is an artist. So, it's a good fit. When do they meet? Do you know?
It's Tuesdays at 5:30? Tuesdays or Wednesdays at 5:30?
Tuesday or Wednesday at 5. Okay, Wednesdays at 5:30 would be doable. I'd have to know exactly when they meet. I don't want to commit to something that's going to be challenging to get to from work.
Per the website, they meet the third Tuesday of the month at 5:30.
The third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday at 5:30. That should probably work. Are we not reconfiguring the other assignments at all?
Say that again?
We're not reconfiguring the other assignments, so everybody's going to keep their assignments.
Everybody seems comfortable with what they have at this point.
Okay, yeah, put me on public art.
We have shifted mid-year when there's a need. If somebody has a conflict and somebody else can cover it, we swap.
Okay.
Tim, you're still doing energy committee? Is that?
Yeah.
And you want to continue that?
Oh, you were on the energy committee.
I was on the energy committee.
Would you like to do the energy committee as well, or do you want? Would you rather be an energy committee than public arts, or did you want to do two committees?
I would rather be on the energy committee than public art.
Okay.
I think two committees would be maybe feasible, but I would not make every meeting, just to be realistic.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm entirely comfortable with letting you take the energy committee, and I'll move back to public art.
Great.
Is that fine?
Yeah. If you're okay with that. Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you.
I'm sure they miss you already.
I doubt it. I miss them.
You're just getting started. Now you get to sit in a different chair. But
Yes.
so that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. Do you need a motion? No. No. Okay.
I mean, as long as you.
Can I make a comment on, I'm a little bit concerned about the time frame on the work plans. I was envious of your comment, Lori, where the NRCC group was on theirs, but the Housing Committee, I know the chair, Nora Senecal, is out for our meeting next Wednesday of the committee, and then April is dedicated to several activities for Fair Housing Month. So there are not meetings designated to focus on the work plan by the Housing Committee as of this time. So there's not a reason there couldn't be a special meeting called to do that, but that does seem to be pushing back on what the schedule was that was developed by that committee. So I'm a little bit concerned that we might not have feedback for when we meet as council in the policy priorities and strategies session. I'll give the committee that feedback next week, and maybe they'll decide to do a special meeting.
So I think the question is, do you want, so as the full council, do you want to shift this schedule down a month, which is feasible, to say that committee, instead of committee work plan proposals being due by May 4th, we move that to June 4th, which would likely move the council working meeting and retreat to late June, early July, with approval of late July?
No, I was going to say the exact opposite. I'd love to accelerate our meeting because it's really important, and leaving it till June is like 3 months of policy discussion that we don't have. So I would not be in favor at all of deferring it. I would be in favor of accelerating it.
And Jesse, maybe you can clarify, was feedback given to the committee chairs that was going to be the time frame for a work plan?
So this has been the expectation for the last couple of years, but not fully heard or messaged, I think.
Okay.
So the feedback that I've heard is that they would like more clarity earlier, which is hence why I put it on for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really at your discretion, the timeline of it.
NRCC and Rec and Parks Committee staff liaisons have been pretty good about keeping that deadline in the headlight.
Mm-hmm.
So between them and me, it's sort of been an ongoing. We know that and that's because those committees have had things that they've wanted to be working on. So they're like, how do we do this? And it's like, you have to have it ready in order to do this. So it hasn't been hugely publicized, I guess.
And maybe just a further question, that was something that sort of changed last year, that you were meeting with committee chairs, correct? Or committee chairs were meeting together with you?
So I met once with committee chairs. In early 2025 or end of 2024, when we were thinking about having a bigger conversation about reorganizing the structure altogether, and decide not to go in that direction. So now I really rely on the council liaisons and the staff liaisons to be the direct conduit to the committees as a whole.
Because that's another thing we have tried to do or identified is opportunities for committees to sort of cross interact and fertilize and whatever. And I do believe that has been going on more. I just didn't know if that was continued to be encouraged by you through some formal process.
So I have not recommended a formal process on that. Sorry, something. I think that's I think if we want to think about doing that over the next year, I think that might be useful to cross-pollinate ideas more.
I remember when I was first on the committee used to meet with the council once a year, the committee chair and someone else, which I think was a really useful process. Because I have the sense that we're not maybe getting the most out of the committees that we possibly can, and part of that is, maybe onus on us to give the committees more direction, to hear from them on a more direct, basis. And I'm wondering maybe whether sometime before their work plan is finalized, we should try and set a process up where we do meet with each of the committee chair, or maybe the designee or two people. They share with us what they'd like to put in their work plan. We share with them with what we're thinking about. We have a dialogue and gives them some more direction. To me, that'd be a really useful thing to do.
Yeah, at the NRCC meeting last night, there's been a lot of focus on what is it we want to get permission from the council to do. And I explained that historically they work at the pleasure of the council, and the council said, this is what we would like you to do. And so getting that back and forth.
But we haven't we don't have a
Hasn't been working
process to
no.
facilitate that really. We only
Exactly.
the only process we have to facilitate that is the policy priorities and strategy document, which can provide direction, but it's it's a sentence or two. They're not there at the table. There's not that back and forth. We don't have a good process for that, for really getting the most out of our committees. I think. I mean, the liaison can do it, but the liaison can't really do it because the liaison can't speak on behalf of the whole council. So that doesn't really work either.
The liaison should only speak.
No, that's
on
what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, we don't have a great process where the council in real time can sit down with the committee chairs and hash out, look, these are the things that we'd love you, the committee, to be working on, hear from them what they want to work on, and really formulate a good plan that we're getting the most and highest and best use from all these experts and community members that volunteer their time for us.
We also haven't had a time where we, as a council, look at each committee and put forward what we think would be appropriate for a work plan for them each year. Yeah. So
I think a process like that would also help when we are filling committees to understand maybe where certain competencies or skill sets of volunteers might be a better fit based on a work plan that's been kind of collaborated on.
So can we agree to do something like that? Maybe late March, early April with the committee chairs? Is that asking too much
with
of you guys, or is that it?
all of them,
Well, I don't know.
or individually.
Well, we can set up 20-minute slots. I don't know. That's how it used to work. You were probably part of that, right?
We've had them come before us in the past. We just haven't.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I think there were like 20-minute slots set up. I remember I did that. I remember as an energy committee member with the chair.
It would be great if we had it set up so that throughout the year, each committee chair gives a presentation to council at some point. And during that time, we can look at what they're doing, what we're doing, what we'd like to see happen, so that at a council meeting in public, there's in preparation for now, if their work plan has just been approved, it's more forward looking, but throughout the year, staggering it so it's not
I'm just saying, like now for this critical period before we meet to hash out the citywide, right, to have those meetings. I know it's maybe crunch and it'll be a lot of work, but it just seems to me it's a really valuable thing to do. So I would be willing to spend the time to do it. And that's,
that could be useful.
I think it's a good idea. And I think having periodic meetings like that is very motivating. If you have a presentation, it motivates you to actually do something, get something done and have a timeline. So I think it's a good idea.
So I'm hearing 3 yeses for that. So an option is we could invite all of the committee chairs to present to the council on April 6th and have that be the sole thing that you do at that agenda. Oh, Elizabeth, you're not here that night.
Too bad.
Thought I had a really good idea there for a minute.
That's a great idea.
Um,
I'd like to hear from Tim and Elizabeth your thought about this concept in general.
I think you articulated it well, and I think it would be useful, not only a combination of what the committee would like to be working on and what they are working on, but then the dialogue back, because I think that's where there have been some misses around expectations sometimes. And it's the opportunity to calibrate before we do the policy priorities and strategies, and then that really does become a living document for the committees.
So you think it's a good idea? And you, Tim?
Well, getting committee representatives in front of the council and public is a good thing, right? Because it gives us a chance to discuss stuff with them, and people get to hear that, and they might have their 2 cents as well. So, just let's not make it 5 hours.
No, absolutely. But I just there were 3 nods, and I just wanted to see if, I didn't want it to be 3-2 or know what it was. So, thank you.
So I'm not sure how to implement this for you all.
Well, can we do a special meeting where Elizabeth can attend toward the end of March, beginning of April, where we get the committee chairs and maybe we give 20 minutes each? I know it's a lot of time. I know it's a lot of work, but I just feel like there's been this crack in the process that really would be useful to address. And maybe on a going forward basis, we can do it more periodic when we get, 2 every 2 months. It's not a crunch, but like right now, I just feel like we need to almost repair a process that needs some attention.
Yeah, as I say, it's about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours
Okay,
to do it.
2-3 hours. That's okay. Okay.
I think there's 8 that
And that
you,
doesn't include the charter committee.
yeah, there's
Well, the
8.
charter committee's not doing anything right now.
Yeah. Just the ones that should be doing something.
Yeah.
That probably are doing something.
Just the one we care about, huh?
Yeah.
But they should be.
So I think you're talking about
There's 11 on your list, but I assume you're not interested in like the pension.
No. Or planning commission, because they already have a work.
So what, so if we're counting here, not charter, not public, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bike ped, economic development, energy, housing, NRCC, public art, recreation and parks.
And I think you should include sextons. Only because they are now, with the approved budget, going to have an administrator, and they've been doing a lot that I don't think the council is aware of, and they're aspirational.
Are these going to be reporting? These are going to be strictly reporting meetings, not discussion meetings?
No, I mean, well, it's up to us, but as I've articulated, I want it to be a back and forth. I want to hear from them, and I also want to provide guidance and have a discussion around that.
I think it's going to be very hard to get 8 committee chairs here
Maybe
during
4
the
and
day.
4?
Anyway, during the day. So I think you're talking about some special council meetings. So you could set 2 dates for special council meetings, and I could poll the committee chairs to see when they would be available, if they, to let them pick between 2 options.
Could
Does
we
it
do
make
2
sense?
evenings, 5 to 7, 5:30 to 7:30,
Does it
and
make
4 and
sense?
4?
To give you a chance to explore with the chairs to try and find out what might work, and then come back to us at the next meeting with a proposal for us to make this work, rather than trying to nail it down now. Not to give you any more to do, because you don't have
I think it
enough.
would be much more effective if you all gave me dates
Okay.
that you could do, and then
Okay.
I would shop those around to
Okay.
committees.
Are we talking evenings, days, both?
Evenings is
Evenings.
Evening. Yeah.
And I just want to remind the council, I am away the 25th to the 5th,
of,
March 25th to April 5th.
and I'm going the 12th to the 19th. of April.
March is going to be really hard for me at this point. Yeah, just to let you know.
Well, in between Jesse and Tim, there's almost no date available.
So 5th to
No.
the 12th?
That's.
You're gone when?
I'm back like the
Oh.
10th or the 11th.
The 11th. Okay.
And when are you gone, Tim?
What's that?
When is Tim? When are you gone?
I'm going 12th to the 19th.
Yep. So we are into April 20th, the week of April 20th,
But you can also do it with 4 councilors.
or we can do it with
Yes.
4 councilors.
And
I need to.
I may be out some of the April meetings too. So
So this is why.
this is why, yes.
You're in the
Short
May.
notice. from-
Unfortunately, I think we
short-
might need to do it with 4.
April.
It is.
It's very short notice for March and April, I think.
You're also going to be asking committee chairs to speak on something that they may not
Yeah,
have talked to
prepared
your
On.
committee. They may not have talked to their committees about.
First week of May.
How about we think about May, and it could even be the two main meetings that it's split up in, because we meet in June, correct, for our planning meeting.
For retreat?
Do you ever
So
do extra meetings? Do you add on meetings ever?
No,
Never.
We're talking about.
Well, welcome to the council.
Somebody told you that this was only 2 meetings a month.
No better.
So maybe then the schedule's a
seems
little bit
like-
different. We've received your work plan. Thank
And
you.
then we've
Let's
got
talk
stuff to
about it, and
talk
here's
about.
our feedback on it.
And it also gives us time to look at their work plan and think about what we want to contribute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so can I say back where I think you guys are? So you want the work plans from committees by the end of April. And then you're gonna take 4 and 4 at the 2 regular May meetings.
Yeah.
And have a conversation about what they've submitted.
And I would maybe amend that to say, because we're doing this short notice for them, a draft work plan.
Those are going to be long meetings, right?
You know, they can be even, you know, if they don't have a lot done already, they can spitball what they think they want to do. But just so we've got something to work with.
Making a note to myself that those are going to be late.
Is that good? Some head nods for this approach?
Nodding head.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you as council liaisons to help your staff liaison communicate your expectations to your committee chairs.
I will
Thank you.
communicate this request to all 3 committees. So we're talking for by the end of April, having those things available.
So if we are going with, actually, let's think about this date for a minute. So the first meeting is April 4th. We would need those draft work plans no later than,
You mean May 4th?
sorry, May 4th. We would need those draft work plans no later than April 28th.
And the idea is
And
not
it
to,
goes to you.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
To Jesse.
and the liaison prior to that date is not expected to give them any kind of guidance on what they should work on. We just want them to tell us what they're doing. And then during that meeting with that committee chair, we'll give them guidance, right? So in other words, we're just supposed to announce to them, provide us with a work plan by, what was the date again? It was April 28th, right? And not provide any input or guidance
Unless the
on the
council
work.
has decided already on things relevant to that committee, then you can communicate that, but not communicate
Right.
what you as a personal council would
Right,
want
right.
to see.
Yeah.
So, yes, with some amendments. One, so how I have interpreted your policy committees to date is that they are charged with supporting you and implementing the city plan.
Yeah.
So, ideally, the work plans are oriented towards their relevant sections of the city plan or the climate action plan. Ideally, they are aligned to a structure. We will try and get out like a structure that they can fill out so they look similar. And then I think there was one other thing. I think that's the guidance. I will also have the staff liaisons try and send the same message, so it's not just coming from you all. I think want to know, and Andrew, this may be some of your frustrations about, you know, forget my words, not your words, like the harm we need to repair here. What this process doesn't allow is any professional feedback from your staff about the committee work plans.
Right.
So that we may trip up against that at some point in this process.
Though, when we do it, would it be appropriate for the staff liaison to be at the presentation?
Yep.
I think that would be really helpful. That would close that loop. Then they can say, wait a minute.
Just putting them on the spot to do real time, but yeah, at least it would help.
It's also not always the staff liaison who is primary responsible
Right.
or has the professional expertise for the thing.
Absolutely.
But I will do my best to manage that on the staff side.
And this is a first stab, so it may look very different after we do this, we'll find out what doesn't work.
Okay, good plan.
Okay. Good. Item 14, which is discuss the conversation with the counselor program and determine next steps. That is that monthly now or every 3 weeks? Every 2 weeks? Monthly. Okay, monthly. Monthly is a good pace. I think it's pretty good, right? Moving from school to school or library. It is $75 fee to the school for the school usage, right? For the janitors.
And the library doesn't charge, or do they?
No.
Yeah.
Believe it or
And
not.
I think a lot of people like meeting in the library.
I think the library is a better facility. It's more comfortable. It's
And it's in city center.
in city center. It's accessible.
It's warm.
It's warm.
It is, but I think it's good to get out to the schools because it's different regions, different parts of the
Yeah.
neighborhoods. So,
Though my experience is for the conversations with the counselors, there's a very set crew that come to those meetings, and then there are occasional others.
Mhm.
And often the people who are usually there come no matter where it is,
Mhm.
and the occasional others aren't always from the area that it's being held at. So I'm not sure how effective being at the Orchard School is at getting people from Orchard to come. Just anecdotally, I'm not doing it based on data.
And Orchard really, I mean, the library is close enough to Chamberlain, and it's kind of like in terms of a physical location, it's kind of accessible to all the schools except maybe Orchard. It's really the
Except maybe
only one
Orchard,
that's
yeah.
kind of. So I mean, I would personally say the library and Orchard, and just leave it at that. Like 3 libraries, 1 Orchard, 3 libraries, 1 Orchard. The library is just a more comfortable location. You're sitting at the school. You got these little, like it's just
Sitting on the little benches, like
because it's not really like it's not set up for.
there's a lot of sentimental value going to Orchard School.
So,
So,
Steve?
yeah, that's fine. I mean,
And personally, I'd say,
that's right.
but we budgeted for we didn't budget for too many libraries, so we're going to have a surplus. We're going to have to deal with that.
Oh no.
I mean, I personally think going to some of the schools is a good idea because it puts you in the neighborhood. We know Chamberlain is a neighborhood that, from a population standpoint, sometimes feels less accessible. I mean, and again, we can't force people there, but we're in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I think it's somewhat symbolic. But yeah. And they're not comfortable, but that's what a big part of our population is living with every day. So I'd keep them.
So you want to keep it the same, or
I would. I'd just rotate them through those areas
okay?
personally.
Oh, let's just leave it the same. Is that okay?
I personally use the library more. So I don't know.
Would you personally just rather go to the library, be scheduled for library times?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. It's just a better facility. It's our facility.
Yeah.
In terms of the proximity to Chamberlain, it's right here. It's like I mean, we're 2 minutes from Chamberlain School. It's kind of right here, and I think it's the right way to present.
So what are we doing
city.
now? Doing Chamberlain Orchard Library, Chamberlain Orchard Library? Is that what we're doing today?
We'd have to check
I don't
with
think it's
Andy.
that steady. You'd have, yeah.
Well, why don't we go library, chamber, library, orchard, library, chamber, library? Just do half of the meetings in the library and half in the schools.
Or 2/3 in the, anyway, whatever. So, well, it's just gets,
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about
I
this
agree
one.
with you, Andrew, that to me, this is the most logical place, but I also, Elizabeth, understand what you're saying about optics and how do we, if we did it here all the time, how do we make sure that the people in Chamberlain and Orchard, et cetera, there's outreach happening to make it so that they feel like they're being invited.
Elizabeth, did you like Tim's compromise? I thought that was a clever. I thought Tim suggested a clever compromise.
Oh, I think that's fine, but I think what I'm really hearing is a couple counselors would prefer to be assigned to the city hall, and
Oh, I
I'm
don't
fine being
care.
assigned to the school, so I don't
No,
care.
I'm not saying
Whatever
that
you
at all.
said, it's fine.
I don't care about that at all. But that's fine. So we'll half library and then half.
Yeah.
So it'd be like one quarter orchard, 1/4 Chamberlain, 1/2 library.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, Elizabeth and Lori are scheduled for March 14th, and that's the last one we have on the books. So we will also need sign-ups for future Saturdays. So either you can do that tonight, or I can have Andy send around a proposed schedule and you can sign up.
It was great having Andy do it.
Yeah, just let Andy propose it.
And have them enclose our pictures too.
He'll send out a doodle poll or something? Some kind of poll? Or no?
It's a little spreadsheet, right?
Okay, got
He
it.
just sends out, this is what I suggest, and if it doesn't work, just let him know.
Okay, got it.
And even once it's set, we still
Use
end up
some-
juggling.
Yeah, you can swap when you need to.
All good on that?
Thank you.
All right. Item 15, review the significant agenda topics below for our next meeting on March 16th.
So, next meeting, big agenda items include a recommendation on next steps with the Bartlett Bay wastewater treatment plant plan. Next steps on the e-bikes on shared use paths, a funding request and contract approval to move forward with the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, those Q2 financials that I talked about, and a recommendation about the FY26 social service funding awards.
And then finally, item 16, other business. Is there any other business tonight?
I do have one item, and it relates to the next agenda possibly. Last time we talked with Erica about the Hubbard Park project, the bike path, which is moving forward. I asked about lighting, and it was like, oh, we can't eliminate the lighting because we've already been through the DRB, et cetera, et cetera. I had a conversation with the zoning office, and it appears that it would take no more than an administrative adjustment to change the approval for that project if the lights in the parking lot were eliminated. The lights, we don't have lights in any of our other parks. Parks are closed at dusk. Getting electricity to the park, putting the lights in, etc., is an expensive process. It was said, well, maybe we just go ahead and do it and not use them. Certainly an option, but if we're going to spend big money on lights that we're not going to use, it seems that we might want to consider not having those lights in that park. And I was wondering if that's something we could put on this next agenda to discuss.
That's fine.
So
Hands up.
I don't put consent agenda items on this. What is on the consent agenda for the 16th is to award the contract for Hubbard Park.
Okay.
So if the majority of you want to revisit that plan, it will likely also mean revisiting that contract award.
That contract can be awarded as is, and there can be a deduct. Anyway, if we're spending tens of thousands of dollars to do something that we don't need and won't use,
These are for overhead lights or
no,
bollards?
these are for the lights around the parking lot.
They're bollards or they're overheads?
They're overheads.
So they're like the lights that are along this.
It's what you saw in the plan.
I can't
6
remember.
months
Was it
ago.
like a gas, 14-foot gas style light? Or wasn't
Something
a
like
Cobra
that.
head, was it?
I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was a Cobra head.
And would they automatically come on at night?
Yeah.
It seems wasteful.
So you've approved a plan for Hubbard Park.
yeah.
You can revisit it. It will be duplicating staff work and duplicating a bidding process. I can pull it from the consent agenda and have you revisit it in its entirety. It will probably mean, it could mean, I don't know if it will probably mean, it could mean, part of why we were hurrying it up for March was to construct the project this summer. If we, so
And I don't
it
want-
may be
Can I ask a
delay
quick
in that.
question? And this is a genuine question, why is it not possible to just deduct that item from the
I haven't had
contract.
any
Yeah.
conversations with the contractor. This is a staff project, so this is new. This would
Yeah.
have been a great example of something. Had you given me a heads up on this,
Yeah.
I could have done some homework on.
Mhm.
But I don't know any of the implications
I,
at this
I
point.
apologize for that, and
It is what it is.
Yeah, it
I'm
is what
just
it is.
answering Beth's question.
having, well, I won't speak for contractors, but changes to contracts, at least when I was in the business, were not necessarily a big deal. And it may not save as much money as it would have if it hadn't been part of the package, but it's
Still
Well,
these kinds of things happen.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling on this is this was a plan that was kind of discussed in great detail prior to my time on council, because I sat in the audience and listened to it, and there were a lot of conversations specifically about the detailed plan that would move forward. So it feels like it would be not just a work order change; it's going back to.
Can I just interject? This is kind of getting to substance. So I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation. So I don't know. I'm just going to sit back.
Yeah, well done. This was, I don't want to delay this project in any significant way, but it seems like spending serious money of our city residents' money on something that's not needed and might not be used is something that we should consider. So,
and might also be disruptive, if I might add.
was that?
And might also be disruptive. I know I was not here, as a counselor for the discussion about the lights, the initial discussion, but
Neither was I.
yeah.
That happened.
Oh,
That
okay.
happened 2.5 years ago.
Right. So, thank you, Andrew, for bringing us back. So this is also not a warrant agenda item tonight.
That's
so
right.
I
So
don't
that's
think
why I
you
asked
can
for the next agenda.
determine tonight what you
No.
want to do. I think I can put it on the next agenda, but the implication of that is potentially pulling off the contract award. So,
Has it been bid yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
oh, it's been permitted,
bid.
it's been bid. We're bringing you.
Oh, and there is a contractor that's,
Yeah.
the bid's been,
Yes.
Yeah.
has been, okay.
No, it hasn't been awarded because you
It
have to
hasn't been-
award it.
So
But you have a potential award.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
That's what, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
can we take it off the consent agenda, put it on our regular agenda, and have this conversation brought up with the contractor so that we know what the implication is if we decide to do this?
Perhaps.
That's what I would propose so that we can.
Do we want the staff person to review why we designed it this way in the first place? To get that explanation before and to help us make a decision what we're going to do? And if we have to make a decision to do that, you're going to have recused yourself, Andrew? Is
Yes.
that true? Okay, so there
So-
will be.
To that regard, Tim, the discussion of lights were added to the parking lot at one council meeting 2.5 years ago.
Mhm.
It happened almost as an add-on to a council meeting. So there was not a big staff recommendation to put those lights in, according to the way it was done in the council meeting.
I think if we're going to talk about history, let's have
it.
staff give you a
Yes.
history of this project.
Yes,
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Let's leave it
So
at that.
I'm hearing 2 votes at least to pull it off the consent agenda, bring you some history of the project, give you the option to sign the bid award, or potentially an option to do something else.
And or what it would take to make a change if we wanted to.
And I want to go on record as disagreeing with, at this late date, with a project that's been approved, a council action that was taken over 2.5 years ago. And the fact that we have an agenda planner and knew this was coming up, and it's on the work plan that was reported on recently, that this is counterproductive.
I understand that. Would just like, I think it would be useful to have staff explain to us the logic behind the use for those lights.
Yes. Thank you.
I agree.
That's your other business?
That was it.
Okay.
I'm recusing.
You're unrecusing. Anybody else have any other business? Other than that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Someday Beth will have the pleasure of being here for Liquor Commission, which goes really fast. You got to keep up with it. It's like,
Perfect first night.